Welcome to the Soul Awakening Academy podcast series. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Mayers, and founder of Soul Awakening Academy. The stories you'll hear are from our master spiritual life coaches and energy healers, women who have gone to the brink of burnout and found the spark within themselves to turn their pain into their greatest purpose. So sit back, relax, maybe grab a pen and a piece of paper as we share their vulnerable stories of adversity to strength, and maybe you'll take some practical skills and strategies you can implement in your life now. And for a thank you, if you want to tap into your unique spiritual purpose, join the 3-part masterclass series below and let me help you find your level of greatness. Okay, so welcome, Rebekah. It's so lovely to have you with us. So we're really celebrating and honouring women who have got their wisdom to share. And as we've experienced in all the interviews I've done, all the women who are now living a purposeful life have been through tragedy, challenges, trauma, adversity, and they've all reached a breaking point. But that breaking point has then been the springboard and the catalyst for major breakthroughs in their life. So we're going to talk about your story. We're going to share who you are, what you do, who you're here to serve. We'll talk about the impact you're making with your work as well. And then it would be amazing if we could give the listener like just a couple of insights or bits of wisdom that they could potentially implement in their life today to help them in the area you feel your expertise lies. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Yay. Okay, so today we have Rebekah Pyatt, and her theme is Trauma to Triumph. So Rebekah started her business libralight.net in 2020, which still operates today, but she felt she needed to provide help and guidance to people striving to find their spiritual identity, so formed the Self Coach. As a master spiritual life coach with a diploma in energy psychology and an accredited quantum holographic echo healing practitioner, plus Akashic Records practitioner, Rebekah can help you discover your authentic self. Rebekah works with people who strive to find their spiritual identity. This is where we have feelings. This is how Rebekah describes it, as feelings of dissatisfaction, disorientation, confusion, and fear in the midst of a strong urge to understand who we really are. You may not know what your purpose is, but you know you need to activate it. That last sentence really lands with me because that was like an itch I needed to scratch way back when. And it can set you in a state of confusion, can't it?
Yeah, it was the same for me back in 2010. Exactly the same thing happened.
Yeah.
I think it does for a lot of people, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It's the biggest question, like, I get asked is, helping people find their purpose. But that aside, welcome and thank you for being part of this amazing week that we're hosting. Tell people about your story, because I mean, as I've explained all week, our stories are so multifaceted, and we have tons of stories, snippets that have happened throughout our life. But the one we're going to talk about today really was a major life challenge that kind of set your scene, didn't it, for the work that you do today?
Yeah, so if we go back to 1997, I found myself single, pregnant, and abandoned by family and friends because at that time I'd been booted out of a religious cult. So it was at the time I don't remember it being tough because I think you just deal with things as they happen. But I can recognize now looking back, like the pattern that had on my life, and that caused a massive abandonment and rejection wound. So I guess from that point, I spent the next 20 years trying to prove my worth by killing myself in a corporate career, and I just exhibited all the traits of somebody with an abandonment and rejection wound. So a complete people pleaser to all my bosses, a complete perfectionist. Everything had to be perfect. So putting my well-being on the back burner. to make sure everything was perfect, that I was hitting my sales targets and everything. But then by the time I got to 2021, and you mentioned a breaking point, which I thought was really interesting because this was my breaking point. So just before the pandemic hit, a number of like traumatic things happened in the space of about 4 months, and it was like gut punches. It was like the universe saying, right, you need to recognize now that you need to stop and heal this rejection wound. So my husband had a brain bleed, my dog died, a close family member attempted suicide, my new puppy got run over and nearly died, and then a virus took over the world, and I thought the Walking Dead was coming true in real life. So that led to me having a dark night of the soul, and that was my breaking point, where I'd been strong and resilient for so long.
Right.
Now it was time to just be vulnerable, let myself break open. And it actually resulted in me leaving my job where I was very well paid, but I was actually the sole earner because my husband was poor. So that step was a really scary step to take because there was no safety net.
Gosh.
So I took a big leap, left my career, and then just threw myself into healing myself. Spiritual identity crisis as well. I had no idea who I was once I dropped the corporate role, and then trained in all of these things and master spiritual life coach so that I can use my experience to help others who might be going through the same thing. And now I feel like I'm living my soul purpose, and just recognizing that journey that I've been through to where I am now. And hopefully I can make that journey easier and quicker for other people.
Yeah, gosh, what a powerful story. I mean, just like, you know, it's just remarkable, really, like being in a religious cult, falling pregnant, being abandoned and shunned by your family, your tribe, cast out. Like, how did you recover from that? Like, how did you manage to then go on, be a successful corporate lady? I mean, how did you manage to do that? That's just a remarkable effort to achieve that.
I think what helped was having my daughter, and I think that helps a lot of people
Yeah.
because it gives them a purpose. So I think that's what drove me.
Wow.
But also what drove me was proving this religious cult wrong, because I was told I'd been nothing once I left them.
Okay.
We weren't encouraged to get education or have jobs. You know, it's either window cleaner or cleaner were the jobs that most of them had. So I was like, right, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I spent the next 20 years doing that. That was my main focus of making sure that I was successful and my daughter was successful. And she has been too. She graduated from Liverpool Performing Arts with a BA in music.
Wow.
Is currently touring as a backing singer with a really well-known band, but I'm not allowed to mention them.
That's so cool. Oh my goodness. That is amazing.
Yeah. So there's
What
some
a life.
that's come out of it from my resilience, but it's doing it for the right reasons that maybe weren't there.
What do you mean by that?
So if I was, as I've said, I feel like sometimes I was doing it to say, hey, look at me. You don't have to be in a religion that controls you through fear to be successful. And actually, as I'm saying that, that doesn't sound such a bad thing. So maybe it wasn't that bad, that's what drove me.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I was picking up on that as you I was trying to reframe the question. Well, first of all, the life that you would manage to give your daughter would have been completely impossible had you stayed in the situation, being in the cult. That's right,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
She would never have had that life that she's living now.
That's true.
So that freedom that was granted to you, albeit through trauma, actually you've changed generational trauma within her.
Exactly. I would never have raised her
Mm.
in that place at all.
So quite often with our generation, we're the ones that are changing because we're healing our trauma. We've changed it for the next generations to come and the generations after that.
Mm.
But it was interesting as you were telling me that, and you know, quite often when we're in this proving energy, you know, we're in our kind of ego energy, we've got to prove ourselves. I was just interested to ask you, like, what are your lessons in that?
There's quite a few. One of them has been learning to, well, a lot of deprogramming. So I told you before I had a program of being a people pleaser. And I look back at myself now and I'm like, oh, why was I like that? Why did I do that? Because now I am not a people pleaser. In fact, if I've ever gone too far the other way, probably. Yeah, so learning that I don't have to make everybody happy. And learning how to say no, being assertive, and not worrying about upsetting the other person when I say no. Understanding that it's not me that's upsetting them when I say no. That's been probably the most powerful lesson. And because of the abandonment rejection wound, I've been scared of facing further rejection, which is why I was the people pleaser for so many years. And now I'm not scared of rejection at all because I've done so much healing on myself and I've worked on empowerment and things like that. Another lesson that I've learned is in most of my jobs, I suffered from imposter syndrome. That's totally gone now. But in every job, when I got the job, and I got every job I went for, but I always felt like I was going to get found out, that I shouldn't have this job. Fear of them realizing, oh my God, why did we hire her? And every single boss was happy with me. But I still had this imposter syndrome, and it was ridiculous. I don't feel that at all now in this job that I have. So I've done a lot of work around that. And also fear of being judged is a massive lesson that I've overcome. I still have it a little bit now. So sometimes when I'm about to post things or to do a video to go on social media, I always think, what will certain people think about that thing that I said? But I still press it. So I did a post yesterday where I just had to close my eyes and press post because I was going to go back and edit it so that it would make all these different people happy that had different opinions and thoughts. And I was like, no, just bloody post it.
Done.
So fear of judgment, which again I know is a trait from an abandonment and rejection wound. So lots of lessons to learn in terms of how I navigate things that happen in my life. So I navigate everything in a completely different way now, just because I've had awareness of how I'm behaving because of that wound.
It's fascinating what you say. It's really powerful as well because you've named like probably 3, if not more, of the most powerful fears that the human being runs on when it comes to growth, self-actualization, and really moving out of your comfort zone, which is fear of judgment of other people, imposter syndrome. I can't remember the other one that you said. It was the first one that you said.
Oh God, come on.
Yeah. Critic. Oh, I don't know. I can't remember now. But they were they're the most powerful
Yeah.
people pleaser.
People pleasing, that's the one.
They are the most powerful like traits that
Yeah.
people can have, or the same, but the other way. You
Yeah.
know, like that wounding comes out the other way where they're completely defensive and totally off the scale where they don't care what anyone else thinks. But yeah, you know, you've just nailed like three of the deepest kind of behavior patterns we fall into based on our wounds. So do you feel like, I mean, what's helped you like the most with that? I know because I was talking earlier, all these interviews I've had it's so funny because the women who I've interviewed, you know, back to back, they've all had the same theme. It's crazy. Everything just syncs. It's beautiful. So I was talking earlier about like feeling comfortable with yourself where you know you've got yourself. Sometimes we fear these situations because we think we're going to crumble. Number one, there's nobody here to support me, or even deeper than that, I can't support myself. You know, so we keep on going and striving and don't let ourselves touch our emotions. What do you think has been like the biggest thing facing those wounds, and what does empowerment mean to you?
Um, in facing the wounds, I think the biggest thing for me is the emotion that comes up when I've been facing the wounds, because I think in those 20 years where I was so focused on being successful, I completely didn't work. I just pushed my emotions down in order to get through it all. And then when you come and do this healing work and look at your wounds and look at your traits, all the emotions start coming up. So I found that really difficult, and I still find that difficult because at the age of, whatever I was when I started doing my healing, it was like 45. I've had 45 years of pushing my feelings and emotions down. So
Mhm.
I'm still working on that. I think that's been the biggest. I don't like it when my emotions come up. And I can feel like I get tense when they do. So I think that's been the biggest challenge when I've faced my wound. And
Mhm.
what was the second part of the question?
I think it was, what does empowerment mean to you?
Um, I think empowerment comes when you um, connect in with who you truly are. Because I had no idea who I was on that day that I handed my notice in. I remember doing a Facebook post of me sat in the garden going, I've got absolutely no idea who I was, because I was mum and I was corporate woman, and my kids had all left home and I just handed my notice in on my corporate career, and I was just like this blank canvas. So then it was uncovering who I am, and a lot of that was actually done through the Master Spiritual Life Coach training with your academy,
Mm,
learning what your values are, your
mm,
strengths, doing all your work with your inner critic, um, and I can finally see who I am now. So who I wasn't was a woman in a suit driving a fancy car going to sit and do IT meetings with men in grey suits. Who I am is this person here surrounded by crystals, tarot and oracle cards, making my own wands, pictures of my spirit guides on the wall. And so I think that's empowered me. It's given me more confidence because I'm more authentic.
yeah.
So the fear and the anxiety goes when you're authentic.
Mhm,
You're able to build genuine relationships with people. And
mhm,
that just naturally then brings empowerment.
mhm.
I mean, if you looked at photos of me in my corporate career, I do look powerful and confident. But actually, behind the scenes, I wasn't. And now I probably look less powerful, but I am internally more confident.
Which is unfathomable, isn't it? It's unweatherable, if that's even a word. Um, you know, it just reminds me of the strong tree. You know, we can have all the glitz, the glamour, but you know, a little gust of wind can crack us open and push us to the ground and shatter us when we're, you know, because we're built on this masking, you know, perception to the world. felt that so much. But when we're internally strong and we have that sense of empowerment, we are so much more understanding, aware, and resilient towards um triggers like what will they think, how might they feel, to a certain level where we know it's unhealthy for us, where we are going into people pleaser,
Mm,
rather than just thinking, this is me and it's not here to offend, but this is how I feel,
mm,
and doing the thing anyway, because quite often it sounds simple, but these are the things that hold us back, especially women in business.
mm,
When we have these when we're breaking out of the mold,
mm,
putting our head above the parapet, we're not following the sheep herd mentality anymore.
mm,
We're really going against the grain. We can go through identity crises thinking, "Oh, what are they going to think?" Because tribally and through our limbic system and our animal senses, we need to be with a tribe.
mm,
We're designed to be connected. We can't survive on our own. That is the most primal of our being. So fighting against that, in a way, fighting against natural instincts, which come down to life or death at the root, it's really, really hard. You have to build up that foundational core of knowing that no matter what happens, getting thrown out at 19, being on your own, you're going to handle it and you're going to make a success of it. No matter what is driving you at the beginning, you've got to get that thing done.
mm,
You've got to fight for survival. You've got to provide for your daughter now, not just yourself. You just do it. And then you reach a point in your life where you go, right, I no longer need to fight this hard anymore.
mm,
And actually the driver probably wasn't there for you
mm.
at some point, and it was like, hey, I've got this now. This is my life now. What do I want? And
Yeah.
all the women I've spoken to have reached a burnout point in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's interesting that is.
Yeah, really interesting. I tend to find that with spiritual like healers and coaches, they get to that point.
Mm.
They just can't do the corporate anymore. They get to the point where they're like, right, break out the mold.
No, I remember the day when I had to hand my notice in. It was a Cancer new moon. It was June 10th, 2021. And it was almost as if somebody else was doing the actions of writing my notice and sending the email. It's like I didn't want to do it, and my hands were like, and my husband couldn't believe I'd done it. He wasn't very happy at all. I was like thinking, oh my God, what have I done? But actually, it's all turned out okay. It was hard in the first year,
Mm,
but that was just
yeah.
an experience.
Oh, well done. So let's talk about the work that you do. What impact do you feel you're making now in your clients' lives? Do you notice a pattern and a theme of the issues that people are coming to you with?
A big theme is a lot of my clients are in careers that they're not,
Mm,
they don't want to be in and they want to leave.
mm,
So funny. Um, Literally every single one. And I've got two close friends who, when I left my job and started mine, they were like, "Oh, I want to do that. I want to do that." And they both have actually done it, and
amazing.
they're doing amazingly well. They've both left the corporate careers and they're doing it. So I seem to attract clients on that theme. Um, and I do call myself the self coach, and I help people who are going through identity crises as well. But I think so. Often the clients come to me, they're still in the career that they don't want to be in. So then I work with them on who are you,
Mm,
authentic, what are your values and strengths, blah, blah, blah. So that then they can decide what it is that they want to do. And
hmm.
then we put a plan together on how they're going to be able to leave the career that they're in and move into what they're doing. So
Yeah,
uh, I've got a few clients that I'm working with over 12 months and we meet monthly.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and we do different exercises to try and get them to where they want to be in 12 months. So
That's amazing. Yeah. So you've got strategy in place as well as kind of reorientating themselves where they think, okay, who am I? What do I want for the rest of my life? Like, what are my true values and the
Yeah,
strengths, and how can I align that to the future I want? And you build a strategy, and because it's
yeah,
scary to free fall, isn't it? It's scary just to jump from one secure place to an unknown place.
yeah. So they don't take my example, but I a much more structured way.
Um, what do you say you want your legacy to be in the world?
Um, I hope to be a catalyst for change, really, for people who were in the same position that I was in 2021. A catalyst for positive change in my field of work, but also in the world, so that expands out into the world where people are living authentic lives and
Mhm.
they understand who they are
Mm.
mentally. So that's what I'd love my legacy to be, is that I've helped people to get to that place in their life where they're content. And one of my big things that I love to teach is, because I used to think or see myself as living on a beach in Thailand in, a lovely gown and sunshine every day and swimming in the sea. And in reality, that is not the case. A few things happened, where we were traveling in a camper van, and a few things happened where we've had to stay close. Basically, my mother-in-law's got dementia, and so what I love to teach is that actually where you want to be in life is being happy whilst these things happen around you.
Mm.
And that's where I am, and that's where I want to get people to. So not setting your expectations too high, or having what's the word, an unrealistic view of what
Yeah.
a perfect life is for yourself. You
Mm.
can have a perfect life now, and it's all about internal work and thought patterns, if that makes any sense.
It does. It's about being happy now, isn't it?
Yeah,
Despite what you have in your life, the good, the bad, the ugly, it's about being happy now. You can deal with life's challenges and you can still achieve your goals, but
yeah,
the fundamental is being happy now.
yeah.
What would you say? Because like for people listening and they think, okay, but what do they mean like find my true self? How do I know I'm kind of not in my true self energy? Like how would it feel to someone to not be alive, living their true self life versus someone who is?
Well, I was asking somebody the other day, and I found it really sad. Like, what do you enjoy doing, and what makes you happy? And they couldn't answer it. They couldn't think of what it was, because that was buried. So there is something that makes them happy, but it's buried so deep down under all the crap that they've been through.
Mhm.
They couldn't locate it. So try doing the exercise where you close your eyes, hand on heart, access a happy memory, such as the day you got married, the day you held your first child. And every time I used one of them, they were like, oh, well, I've divorced my husband. Oh, well, I had a really painful birth. And it just couldn't come up for them. So I think if you find it difficult to access or think about your life in the future, as in how you expect it to be a perfect life, then that's when you need to start working on yourself, your authentic self, digging down, looking at who you really are. Because it should be easy. You should be able to just see it. And if you're blocked and you can't see it,
Yeah,
then
there's something in that, like an exercise that people can do because we have something called a negativity bias. So we could experience a whole range, a great thing, but something bad might happen within that. For instance, we put a post out, we get 1,000 likes and two or three or five really negative comments. Well, our negativity bias, like our fear-based brain, it wants to like just focus on the negativity because it's scary to us. We want to change it, want to avoid it. So we've got a negativity bias in our brain. So if we can help people say, if somebody really struggles like that, then what they can do is bring in some mindfulness practices. They can start savoring small moments of appreciation that can last for 30 seconds, a minute, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever. But it's just to start small. So if people find it hard to focus on the happy or the satisfaction or the joy, because of their negativity bias, start them to appreciate whatever they like maybe it's a piece of chocolate.
Mm,
And in your sessions, you can offer them a nice piece of chocolate and just ask them to hold it in their mouth and just let it melt and just really savor the moment and think of nothing else but the sensations and how it feels, and then get them to describe how that felt. Then they can
mm,
start building in moments like that. So when they might see a sunrise or a sunset, ask them to stop, ask them to appreciate it, journal it, da 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 da. And then it's building a new muscle
mm,
in the brain, and then they can start to really, have this experience of having had happy moments.
mm. Yeah,
Appreciate them. Yeah.
that's brilliant. I've learned something.
Yeah, yeah. So for anybody listening, because it is difficult based on a lot of things. We don't know the person you're referring to, but there's so many factors in why somebody would be that way. But just to help them, I mean, first question would, do you want to stay this way? Does this way of thinking serve you? Because there could be something around that as well.
Mm,
Secondary gain anyway, but that's just a little tip for anybody listening, that if they feel that way and they can't find the joy, start small. Just start by appreciating flower, a sunrise, a bird, a beautiful moment that they spot in the street, and only focus on it and savor it and appreciate the moment. Journal it, whatever, or not, and then build up that muscle.
mm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I always ask this question. I think it's really cool. If you were to wake up a billionaire tomorrow, what energy and impact and change would you still want to make or see in the world?
Oh, that's a good one. I've always said if I won the lottery, because I just love animals, I'd go and open a massive dog farm and
Yeah.
just save all the animals that the rescue centre's struggling to get adopted, and train them up and get them adopted out. Because I just have this affinity with animals. So I think the change I'd want to see in the world is that um, people are living lives that are authentic to them, instead of just existing, they're actually living.
Mm,
Because I think with all the challenges that we have at the moment, um, I know a lot of my clients work all day, come home, have to get the kids things ready for school in the evening, go to bed knackered, wake up the next day, do it all again, try and recharge the batteries at the weekend, but often fail, and then go back to work on a Monday with a dead battery. And that is just existing and not living. So I'd love to find a way of helping people make that transition
mm.
from just having a draining life to being able to live.
I hear you. It really lands. Like sometimes you see people and they're just so numb.
Yeah, exactly.
So numb. And it must feel like, I mean, maybe it doesn't. Some people are completely happy, but sometimes it's just like Groundhog Day.
Mm.
And yeah, I can't bear an existence like that.
I
My
think
val
that is how I was existing when I was,
Yeah,
oh,
gosh, can't bear it.
yeah.
Yeah, so it is important for people to understand their values.
Mm.
One person's value could be consistency, continuity. It could be doing the same. It could be routine. That could be someone's value. So we're not here to judge anyone who finds the pleasure in the same in the monotony of life. I mean, I think it's something quite peaceful about
Mm.
finding pleasure in it. There's something quite agitating around not feeling peaceful
Yeah.
in that kind of life because you're always searching for more. So it's like a fine balance of knowing yourself, isn't it? Uh,
Yeah.
it's driving your behavior as well, which are your values are really cool to understand that. Final question. How would you say training with the Soul Awakening Academy, learning all the skills, the coaching, the healing skills, has helped you personally and your business or client?
Well, I don't see it as just a training portal. It's kind of like helped me to find a tribe, which has been very difficult from leaving the corporate world, moving into woo-woo stuff. Like most people see it as woo-woo. And it's a it's enabled me, it's given me a really good toolkit to use with clients because I can whip so many different things out to use for them. So Soul Awakening Academy has been a really positive change in my life, particularly the monthly meetups that we do,
Yeah.
um, and learning something new that I can use each month is really valuable. And you've
Yeah.
just taught me something new on this call as well. And it's had a massive impact really on my own personal life because obviously you go through a healing journey when you do the training,
Yeah.
but also on my professional life.
Mm. Well, I'm really honored because it must have been. So, did you train with us after you'd handed your notice in then? Were we?
Yeah, yeah. The first year, I did the Akashic Records stuff, and
Yeah.
then I did the quantum holographic echo healing alongside the master spiritual life
Yeah.
coaching.
Gosh, so
Yeah,
you threw yourself into it all, didn't you?
I did, and I've had a rule not to sign up for any more courses. I've done well for the last year. I haven't. I don't want to do it this year. I just want to get properly embedded with my clients.
Yes. I think
Um,
that's a great way to go.
but
Yeah.
all I want to do is learn more.
I
Like, and I
know, I
stop
know.
myself every day from signing up to things.
I'm the same. I love knowledge.
Yeah,
And I love creating things. But I think when you're establishing a business, you've only got so much energy. And
exactly.
yeah, I think you're doing the right thing by the sounds of it there.
Yeah, and what I like to do is go back and work through the model
Mm,
again.
learn
Because
something
you
new.
never take anything in first
Yeah.
time.
No, I get that. It's like watching a movie. When I watch a movie, it's just all going over my head. But then when I watch it again, I'm like, oh, I get that. I
Yeah,
get that now. Yeah. So that's really cool that you do that. And
yeah,
like that course is always available to you. You don't get booted off or anything after a certain time. It's lifetime access to the material. So
yeah.
that's really valuable for you. Thank you so much for sharing this space with me. Your story is amazing. It's quite unusual, but there will be people out there that deeply resonate with that kind of abandonment and rejection from the tribe, that identity and that striving, and then the ultimately knowing you're not in alignment with the true self and going on a quest to find that. So well done, you.
Thank you.
I look
Thanks
forward
for all
to
your
sharing
help.
it. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Take care. Lots
You
of love.
too.
Bye.